Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hello Word. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm thrilled you're joining me today as we delve into another fascinating word from the English language. Today's word is cluster, a C1 level noun. So, what exactly does cluster mean? Well, a cluster refers to a group of similar things that are close together. It suggests a gathering or collection of items, often in a somewhat disorganized manner, but definitely sharing a common characteristic. Think of it as a bunch or a gathering of something specific. We use cluster quite often in everyday language, from talking about stars in the night sky to describing a group of houses in a village. For instance, you might say there was a cluster of students gathered around the notice board. It simply implies they are all together, looking at the same thing. Now, let's explore some synonyms for cluster. One excellent synonym is group. We could say, a group of tourists were admiring the monument. Another useful synonym is bunch, especially when talking about things that grow together. For example, she bought a bunch of grapes at the market. Then we have collection, which works well when items are gathered intentionally. Imagine saying, the museum has a valuable collection of artifacts. Another great synonym is accumulation, suggesting a gradual gathering. Consider the sentence, there was an accumulation of dust in the corner. And finally, we can use the word assemblage, particularly when referring to a formal gathering or collection. For example, an assemblage of experts attended the conference. Now, let's look at some antonyms. Antonyms, of course, give us the contrasting meaning. One antonym for cluster is individual. Instead of a group, we have a single unit. For example, each individual student received personalized feedback. Another antonym is separate. Instead of things being together, they are apart. For instance, the ingredients must be kept separate until needed. Another contrast is distributed. Rather than being in a close group, items are spread out. An example would be, the leaflets were distributed throughout the neighborhood. Another antonym to consider is isolated. This implies something is alone and detached. Think of the sentence, the village remained isolated due to the heavy snowfall. A final antonym could be scattered, indicating a random and dispersed arrangement. For example, the seeds were scattered across the field. So, how can you use cluster in everyday life? Well, you might say, I saw a cluster of people waiting for the bus. Or, the software update fixed a cluster of bugs. You could even say, there's a cluster of restaurants near the university. In more formal settings, you might hear someone say, the data showed a cluster of cases in that region. Or, the company is focusing on a cluster of related projects. Here are some more usage examples of cluster in sentences and phrases. The stars formed a beautiful cluster in the night sky. The students formed a tight cluster around the speaker. A cluster of problems delayed the project's completion. Scientists identified a cluster of genes associated with the disease. The houses are built in a cluster around the village square. He found a cluster of mushrooms in the forest. The software update addressed a cluster of security vulnerabilities. The company is investing in a cluster of innovative technologies. Analysts noted a cluster of economic indicators suggesting a recession. The artwork featured a cluster of vibrant colors. The bees formed a cluster on the branch. We often see the phrase cluster of houses or cluster of trees. You could also use cluster as a verb, although it's less common. For example, fans clustered around the celebrity. You could even describe information as being clustered together. So, to recap, a cluster is a group or bunch of similar things close together. Antonyms include individual and separate. You can use it to describe anything from stars to people to problems. It's a versatile word that adds precision to your English. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hello Word today. I hope you found this exploration of the word cluster helpful. Your support means the world. If you enjoyed this episode, Please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your reviews help others discover our show and learn new words too. Now, for your homework, I encourage you to create your own sentence using the word cluster and share it as a comment under the video. I'm excited to see what you come up with. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring the wonderful world of words.